the Grand Master of the ancient Jedi. Stories are told within the Star Wars Saga.
Firstly, you need to create a path for the story to be retold for people to remind them and earn their trust. The people of powers have been wrongly seen as demons who cheer to the rival. They don't see that magic science not yet discovered. Secondly, they had to find and protect others who were like them but were left to the religious world, leaving them in asylums, hospitals, and on drugs to mask their gifts. And as we know, through the centuries, there's been many witch hunts, and the results of them have left many burned at the stake. In 1908, the Grand Master claimed the time was right to return to the world, and that was due to observing the cycles. As we know that everything in the universe is a cycle, it's on a cycle. Even though people have created time, created the calendar, time has been created, and when they say, you know, time and space, no, that's not quite correct. It does invent time, and time is just constant in a cycle. Just as they say that history is always bound to repeat on, and that certain trends always come back around, and it's just those same cycles that are observed, and by observing those cycles we can see the picture of what's happening, and that's exactly what the saga is. It is a cycling story which can happen over different times and millennia, and is why the prequels represent the past, even though they foretell again future events that happen in the real world, the trade crisis, bank crisis, media monopoly and more, as well as the clone wars that are still ongoing in the Middle East. So where the Lucas started is where we are right now, and that is a new hope. So those things represent things just like prequels, which we'll go into, represent certain metaphors which we'll explain. So in 1980, the Grand Master, as I said, saw that the time's coming. This order was then a disorder. There were many names of these gardens all across the world, Tibet, Egypt, South America, everywhere, and there's so many different names for them. They mainly stayed in that mystery schools in Egypt. It was just the Assyrians or Commissions, which were the pre-dynasty people. They would record history and gather the records before the conquering armies of the church would get there. The stories of the Hall of Records as part of the library, as well as before the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, all removed and part of a library. Some of the stuff is hard to translate and actually understand, but we'll go into that later. So around the 1920s in New York, we found Atlas Comics, which had just sort of started publishing for themselves after years just being in newspapers, doing like caricatures, comic cartoon, and this was the intervention of them. And you can say whether it's sort of kind of some Greek muse or how a hypnotist makes do what they do, it can be explained in many different ways. But Atlas Comics started a new genre that allows people to be seen and have powers that only were allowed for God. Now people, obviously, as you know, with the witch hunts, with powers were always classed as demonic, and now science has a name for those kind of gifts or traits, which will which we'll explain in another. So that again was aimed at children, because as I say, the mind of child is inspirational. Do you know what I mean? They don't see all the hate, and they're so innocent, the mind, you know what I mean, it can be shaped. That's why they believe in Santa Claus till a certain age and tooth fairy or whatever. So that new genre, the superhero that you know today, that allow people that could now have powers and explain that. The X-Men that remains the closest, also created by then came Marvel comic. The X-Men brought a reason for the powers, as they fought a world that called them mutants, which is just saints using a demonic label. But on closer inspection, it was a natural thing, a natural gene that was going on. They were the first of the newly named X gene who had that same duty to the people. The superhero genre was first step to finding a way to tell people their story and warn of these religious diseases that supposed to promote love but portrays evil without their version of evil, which is an entity, not a choice, which it really is. They managed to scare generations into their churches. Science was also finding more and more mysteries of the past as well. But that is how the path started. It never started in 1979, and because of those disorder, it was also a call to unite. Now that's the main messages. Wow, is to unite, because only a united all, which can be a dual metaphor, can actually do something, and all that had to be done before the actual telling of the stories. As the saga story now of 6 films, it's just a routine cycle, just like it repeats itself, just how trends come back around. Just because we've put a time and calendar on things, time is irrelevant, and because we have just put time onto more our own events and our own accomplishments and our own mortality in a way by using birthdays and stuff like that. But time isn't linear. Time is just something man made up. So space and time is not quite true. Time isn't made by man. They put themselves into a kind of limit, but those are really cycles. Everything in the universe is cycle, from cycling of the galaxies to cycling of the solar system, cycling of planets. All cycles. It's like saying a broken clock is always right twice a day. They put the time on it. You understand that? So trying to find out dates from the past is hard because calendars changed that many times, even though the older ones were more correct than the later ones. So when we talk time, what that has done is made it more that humans are now not as in harmony with planet as they used to be. Unlike every other animal creature on the planet can live together in peace. A lion can live in the same prairie, in the savannas with the leopards and not the leopards with their food. They don't go around killing them all. I mean, they only kill them when, for food. But what man has done with this time is, instead of it being a cycle, a circle, we now try to put that circle into neat little boxes. And these neat little boxes you see everywhere. See them on your calendars, on your days, from Monday to Monday, basically. Year after year, month after month, day after day, all single boxes. And what happens when you try to put a circle in a square? It doesn't fit right. So that's why we observe the cycles and can see and foresee certain things that are always repeating themselves. And that is the way the saga is done. There's a kind of repeating timeline of things that have happened, which is the prequels, and things where we are now. As you know, I don't know everything about the saga, but as is said in A New Hope, the heroes that know nothing of the Jedi, even though it's only so many generation, or I don't know, a generation later, 20 years later, thank you, everything that's been done wiped them from people's knowledge, and they're just known as legend and myth, just as the heroes did, until they were told. And that united a princess, a farm boy and a pirate united, and that's what it's all about. And that's why he started where he started, at A New Hope, and that's where we are today. And as the saga finished and ended, and the slow revelation of it is coming out, that is that moment of that old guardian telling the new heroes that this is true. And the line within it where the master meets the once apprentice says that ominous line as the circle is now complete. And that's the point we're getting to. And as you say, in 2012, people are going to be the end of the world, 23rd December 2012. But it wasn't. My calendar was just showing you their cycle, which is on a big, long cycle, which is a big solar year, which lasts 26,000 years. And all that was is showing that was the end of it. But it doesn't end and change overnight. It's a slow progression. And obviously you see in that time, just a few months before that, the sale of the saga to Disney.